It is very probable that there is no draft in the history of the NFL by any team in any year that was better than the Steelers draft of 1974.
We came into that draft, I would say, feeling good about the team. I mean, there was no doubt the team was building, and you know, we made the playoffs for the first time ever for 2 seasons in a row.
They also felt good about their scouting staff, led by owner Art Rooney's son, Art Jr.
Art Jr., he's got the personality of his dad. Same kind of gregarious kind of guy, deep voice, and just has millions of stories, and he's been like that his whole life.
Art Jr. was joined on that staff by Steelers legend Jack Butler, longtime personnel man Dick Haley, and the future Pro Football Hall of Famer Bill Nunn, who worked for the Pittsburgh Courier before becoming a scout.
Mostly coaches didn't get too involved because there wasn't enough time for them to get involved.
But Chuck Noll was a new breed of coach. He was very much interested in which players the Steelers would draft.
Chuck Noll, besides wanting to build through the draft, one of his other edicts was, we will find the best athletes out there.
It doesn't matter to us where a prospect is. As you know, we have quite a few prospects from smaller schools.
Pittsburgh up.
Lynn Swann, he went to Southern Cal. Everybody knew who Lynn Swann was. Everybody knew Lynn Swann was going to be a first-round pick.
I like to think of myself as a true competitor, and there's no more competition in the field than returning a punt when it's you and at least 9 guys that you have to get away from, mostly by yourself.
Coach McKay, he liked me for some reason. I think he was from the Pittsburgh area. I don't know. So we only went to 1 or 2 guys, and he went down. He said, here's the best guy I have. He said, he's a special guy. He says he can jump like a kangaroo, and he never drops a ball. He has phenomenal concentration. He's really your kind of guy.
After 14 minutes and 55 seconds of their 15-minute selection time, the Steelers made a decision.
Pittsburgh on the first round selects Lynn Swann, wide receiver, Southern California.
The scouts, Nunn, Art Rooney Jr., Haley, all of them, convinced Chuck Swann would be gone if they didn't take him in the first round. Stallworth would still be there.
And as it turned out, they played it perfectly. The Dallas Cowboys were up next in the draft, and they were all set to take Lynn Swann.
Pittsburgh was looking for a new middle linebacker. But they needed more than a new player. They needed a new kind of player. One who could both support the run near the line of scrimmage and drop into deep zone pass coverage in Pittsburgh's new Cover 2 scheme.
In the early 1970s, Kent State was not necessarily known for producing top NFL talent, but there was a rangy middle linebacker there who caught the Steelers' eye. Art Rooney Jr. made the drive over to watch the Golden Flashes practice, which took place in a parking lot.
Anything that moved, he hit. And these are all his teammates, and I don't know if he's putting on a show for me or not, but he was belting everybody.
With the 46th overall pick, the Steelers passed on bigger players with bigger names, like linebacker Matt Blair, in favor of the tall, lanky Kent State Golden Flash, who fit Pittsburgh's new profile of a middle linebacker.
He could drop into pass coverage, so tight ends going across the middle, he could cover them. And he was tough enough to make the tackles that a middle linebacker should make. So I don't think there was really a debate when they drafted Jack Lambert, other than Chuck still wanted John Stallworth. Chuck loved John Stallworth.
The scouts had to convince him of 2 things. One, if they didn't draft Swann in the first round, somebody else was going to, and they wouldn't get him. And 2, that John Stallworth would be there when it was their turn to draft in the 4th round.
The main convincer in the room that day was Bill Nunn, who scouted Stallworth heavily at Alabama A&M. As the story goes, none had inside information on Stallworth, including an exclusive copy of his highlight reel that blew the Steelers away.
Sometimes it was hard to get film. Bill knew how to get the film.
In the case of Stallworth, there was like one can of film.
The guy was perfect. He was, did everything. Could catch, jump, and my dad came to see the film. Everybody. And I told Bill, I said, is this a manufactured picture? Is this guy for real? He said, no, he really is.
As it turned out, the Steelers were the only NFL team to be impressed by that film, thanks to a bit of chicanery by Bill Nunn.
The Steelers had no pick in the third. But when their turn came up in the fourth round, the player Chuck Noll coveted was still available. So the Steelers drafted receiver John Stallworth.
The Steelers took care of their definite needs early, but then in the fifth round, they took a player they knew would not start immediately for good reason. Ray Mansfield was a mainstay for the Steelers throughout the 60s and 70s, so center did not appear to be a hole they had to fill in the '74 draft. But the scouting staff recognized Mansfield's importance and the need to keep that position strong. Mike Webster was first-team All-Big Ten the last 2 years at Wisconsin, and that drew Art Rooney Jr. to Madison to watch him play.
He's something special.
He was, in fact, special. So special that he would eventually break team records for seasons and total games played as a Pittsburgh Steeler. Webster was also perhaps the greatest center of his era, which spanned 17 years.
Most centers, you have to help. The guard has to help him block somebody. He didn't need that with Webster. Webster just could take on his own man, sometimes two.
Brought his pail every day, hard worker, didn't say very much, and just played football.
The Steelers getting 4 Hall of Famers out of that draft, especially when there are only 5 Hall of Famers in the entire draft, it's unbelievable. Because really, when you think of the probability of it, that's like winning Powerball.
I can't think of another draft where anybody had that kind of a haul that you come away with Lambert, Swan, Stallworth, Webster.
In 1974, Pittsburgh's rookies contributed to a 10-3-1 regular season record that catapulted the team to its first ever Super Bowl victory. The Steelers would win 3 more Lombardi trophies before the decade ended.
Bradshaw pumping, firing downfield. There goes Stallworth. He pulls it in at the 30, the 20, the 10, the 5, and it's a touchdown for Pittsburgh on the ball to Stallworth.
I think it's the greatest draft by any team in the history of professional sports.
Swan makes his circus catch in the end zone. Unbelievable. The Pittsburgh Steelers are the champions of the National Football League for the 4th time.
By building a dynasty through the draft, the Steelers ensured that the prevailing philosophy of the future is now would be relegated to the past.